Capitol View. My name is Angel Alston, and I'll be your host for today, along with my co-host, Mr. Ulysses E. Campbell. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Angel.
It's always a pleasure to work with you. This episode of Dreams, the Capitol View is brought to you is sponsored by New Generation Training and Learning Center and the Greater Brooklyn Businessmen Association. Today we have an exciting show for you. We have our very own Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton live with us in studio. Welcome, Congresswoman Norton.
So good to be with you.
It's wonderful to have you here with us today. We're going to jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you run for your position.
Well, I suppose I should call myself the accidental Congresswoman. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian, but I had a number of lives before I ran for Congress, and at the time I decided to run for Congress, I had gotten what is called tenure at Georgetown Law Center. That after having been chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and I decided to go on the tenure track. Now, your listeners may know that tenure in colleges and universities is a job for life. But when the person who had been the congressman decided to leave this office, Walter Fauntleroy, that opened a seat, and a number of people said, "Eleanor, you're a native Washingtonian, why don't you run?" I said, "Who, me?" Actually, the person who really convinced me to run is Donna Brazile. Donna Brazile, who is now known to television because she's a pundit. She was a friend, and she became my chief of staff for 10 years. So I always say Donna made me do it, and I've never looked back.
Okay. How long have you served in your position?
Well, this is my 13th term, and the terms go 2 years.
Okay. We just celebrated DC Emancipation Day earlier this month. Tell us about what that day means for you and how you use it in your fight to make DC the 51st state.
Well, DC Emancipation Day really commemorates the day that the slaves in the District of Columbia were freed 9 months before the slaves anywhere else. So it is a notable day. But this far in the 21st century, surely we aren't celebrating the liberation of slaves. Surely there is more to celebrate here. We pay homage to the slaves who were liberated. We cannot imagine what they must have felt. But we have to do more, because the District of Columbia is still treated with discrimination relative to every other American in every other jurisdiction. We are pressing now for statehood. So why not make Emancipation Day about emancipating us from the Congress of the United States? So that is how I use the day, and that's how many, many residents use the day.
Congresswoman Norton, you mentioned some of the different jobs that you've held in the past. Now, among these that you didn't mention was your role as Assistant Legal Director of the ACLU, Chair of the New York Human Rights Commission. How did serving in these roles prepare you for what you're doing today?
Well, I think they really did prepare me, even though being a member of Congress is very different from being a constitutional lawyer, as I was at the American Civil Liberties Union in New York, where I got to argue before the Supreme Court of the United States. And of course it is different from being the chair of the New York City Commission on Human Rights. But in each of those particular roles, I was arguing for the underdog. Guess who I'm arguing for these days? So it does seem to me it was perfect preparation for the post I now have, which is to somehow keep the Congress off our back. It's not just going to be the 51st state. It's to keep the Congress from interfering with the residents of the District of Columbia, as they are wont to do all the time. And of course to move us forward to become the 51st state in the Union.
Well, easier said than done, I'm sure, a lot of the
Indeed.
time. Now, these jobs, particularly at the ACLU, required you to maintain a commitment to principle, which I'm sure must have been difficult from time to time. In fact, I understand you once had to defend the free speech rights of George Wallace. What was that like?
That was fun. Here I was, the arch enemy of George Wallace, and yet he needed he needed me, as it turns out, to speak in New York City. I was a First Amendment lawyer. Now, flash, you can't have free speech rights, unless somebody you disagree with has free speech rights. So that's how that goes. And I was asked, Eleanor, how would you like to go out to Queen's Supreme Court on Monday to represent George Wallace? Now, I had represented all manner of people. I'd represented, Julian Bond, when I wrote the amicus brief to the Supreme Court, when he was trying to get, now that's somebody that I'm more in agreement with, when he was trying to get recognized, and they kept him out of the Georgia legislature. And I represented Vietnam veterans who wanted to march, even when they were in the service. So most of the people you get to represent is really interesting if your civil liberties lawyer are on the left. So this was a magic opportunity for a First Amendment lawyer to demonstrate to those, frankly, who don't want to give us our rights, how the First Amendment works. So I said I'd be pleased to go out, and they said they want you to argue the constitutional part of the case. They're arguing whatever else was the case. And I have to tell you, one of the biggest surprises of my life, I went out, I went up to counsel. I said, I am Eleanor Holmes Norton. I'm here to argue the First Amendment part of the case. And they never flinched. He was known to have very highly educated people around him. They welcomed Mrs. Norton to argue. We understand you are a First Amendment expert, so we were very pleased to have you. You would never have known that I was speaking for a man who was, and I don't want to, I don't know what they thought, but I sure know what he thought. Of course, George Wallace was not there. They were there to make sure he spoke at Shea Stadium. Shea Stadium is a public facility in New York City. You can't keep anyone from speaking in a public facility. Ku Klux Klan can speak. Hope they don't, but they're entitled. And yes, my friends in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee could speak there. Not a private facility. It's a taxpayer-paid. It's a taxpayer-supported facility. Anything public is open to the free speech rights of anybody who wants to speak there and can pay the fee.
How have you been able to keep up the momentum for DC statehood in Congress?
Well, that is something, that's a process and a set of fights that you think through each year. How can I move the ball further? Remember that for about half dozen years, when I was in the minority, and by the way, I have been in the minority, which means that the Republicans have been in charge of the Congress most of the time that I've been in the Congress. I worked with Tom Davis, who believed, not in statehood, but he believed that every American should have representation in the People's House, the House of Representatives. We got so very close. We got the House and we got, first of all, to his credit, Tom Davis really, it was his Republicans, remember, I'm in the minority. He retired before this matter could go to the House, but he was not able to get enough Republicans in the Republican House to want to bring that matter to the floor. Now understand, this would have meant a wash. It was Utah, the most Republican state in the Union, and DC. So Republicans had nothing to lose. Why didn't they put this on the floor? Tom retired. He could have stayed. He was very popular. He also raised money for the Republican caucus. he decided to retire, and Democrats came to power. So it is Democrats that got the House and the Senate to bring the bill to the floor, and then guess what? The National Rifle Association attached, they had enough members to attach an amendment saying that in return for getting our vote, we would have to give up all our gun laws, and we had to leave our House vote on the table. It's then that we decided, okay, we did all we could when there was 1-for-1, Republican this side, Democrat this side. Now we're going for the whole thing. We would have gone for the whole thing ultimately, but to get a House vote was to get part of the way. But this was, as far as I'm concerned, a great tragedy that you couldn't convince the Republicans when they would get as much as we would get to let us have the vote on the House floor.
Now, I'm under the impression that a majority of people in the nation aren't especially knowledgeable about the District of Columbia. For example, I'm not sure that people outside of D.C. are generally even aware that you don't have a vote on the House floor. Have you found this to be the case?
Yes, in fact, when they see me on the House floor, this really kills me. I think they think we have the same rights as everybody else. And so I often go to the House floor, since I have all the rights and privileges of any and every member of Congress, except that final vote on the House floor. I wrote a memorandum when I first came to Congress, when 2 short years we were in the minority, and it went this way. The logic of it, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand. I wrote to the Speaker, who was a Democrat, that I vote in committee. The Committee of the Whole on the House floor is nothing but a committee established by the House of Representatives. If I vote in committee, ergo I should be able to vote on the House floor. Well, Tom Foley said, well, Eleanor, nobody's ever said D.C. should vote on the House floor. I have to send it to outside counsel. Send it to outside counsel. Outside counsel said, Committee of the Whole is a creature of the House, just like any committee is. It's at your discretion. They then gave me the right to vote on the House floor, but only in the Committee of the Whole, and that's not everything. But you can see that that incrementally gets you someplace. And the Republicans sued. They lost in the district court, they lost in the Court of Appeals, and then they gave up because they knew they were about to lose in the Supreme Court. And I voted and continue to vote as long as Democrats are in power, but Democrats have not been in power most of my service in the Congress. The one regret I have.
One follow-up.
Just to follow up on that question right quick. Tell the viewers what it is that you can do and what you can't do in your position.
Look, I can chair a committee. I'm ranking member, which means the top Democrat on the committee that just voted the first surface transportation bill in 10 years, a long-term one. And that has jurisdiction on WMATA and buses and bridges and roads. I have been a ranking member, continue to be a top Democrat on a committee that has enabled me to revitalize 6 neighborhoods in the District of Columbia. Noma is one that people may be familiar with. Southeast waterfront, Southwest waterfront. Those are my bills. I can do everything anybody else can do, except the one thing that is emblematic of being an American citizen. Vote for the people I represent on the House floor. I vote for them in committee. I speak on the House floor. I can get seniority and become chairman of a committee. You name it, I can do it, except the thing you most expect me to do.
Well, I'm going to try and get this one in really quick, but I know we're coming to a break. But how challenging has it been to serve under conditions like this?
Not challenging at all. I mean, you know, you demand to be treated as others are treated. You walk in, you don't say, here's Eleanor Holmes Norton, I don't have a vote. Here's Eleanor Holmes Norton. I'm here to get for the people of the District of Columbia what they deserve. And you win respect by carrying yourself as if you were the equal to them, because you are the equal to them, just that you don't have the vote on the House floor, and they have the power one way or the other. You never present yourself it seems to me. And perhaps this is something I learned as I grew up in segregated Washington. You never present yourself as less than those to whom you are engaged.
I think we have a little more time. So let's talk about some of the bills or the legislations that you're currently working on now.
I probably.
Well, we'll hold that question.
Okay.
We'll hold that question until we come back for break.
How do you feel about congressional intervention in local affairs?
You want to really get my gander up, don't you?
We're trying to have good TV, Congresswoman.
That's my chief nemesis, to fight the constant attempts to intervene into our lives. We've got one pending now that would say that you could bring conceal a gun carry in the District of Columbia so long as you came from a jurisdiction that said you could do it. It doesn't matter what we said, so I'm going to keep that one from happening, but that's an example of the kinds of things that we're up against.
Okay. So viewers, we ask you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just
Please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Welcome back to Dreams of Capitol View. We're still joined with the Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. And right before we went to break, we were discussing some of the bills that are currently being worked on in Congress. So Congresswoman, if you had to pick like your top three or your babies in progress right now, what would they be?
Well, we've already discussed statehood.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about budget autonomy. Why is the district's budget $7 billion coming to the House of Representatives for people who didn't raise a dime of it to essentially pass it? Well, the people in their wisdom passed and overwhelmingly passed a budget referendum a couple of years ago. I've been able to keep that budget referendum from being overturned. Essentially what it says is the District of Columbia is going to simply do it. And the district is prepared to do it now. So the Speaker of the House was heard to say, well, he'll have to look at Congress's options. So far, I've kept Congress's options from turning it over or overturning it. What the district is going to do this October is to submit its budget for 30 days. It's kind of it's not exactly budget autonomy, but it'll be it. if it works. After 30 days, it will simply go about the business of implementing its budget without the Congress having passed it. Now, at this point, the Congress is apparently listening, and I cannot imagine what their options will be. They do have options. We have what is called delegated home rule. That is to say, until you get statehood, the Congress is still in your life and in your business and can intervene at any point. Delegated home rule means that it's still owned by the Congress. They've simply delegated it to a mayor and a city council. That is the problem we are up against, and that is why we want to become the 51st state of the Union, because nobody can do anything. Nobody in the Congress can do anything about, for example, Maryland or Virginia. They can do anything they want to do locally. We want that same option.
Congresswoman, you mentioned Tom Davis earlier, and that actually started me thinking, because for a long time there were moderate members on the other side of the aisle, and we're not seeing so much of that these days. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that, and why we're not seeing the moderate members who are willing to sort of be conciliatory and work to compromise?
I think the advent of the Tea Party was some of it before then. But I can remember when Newt Gingrich was Speaker, I got along very well with Newt Gingrich. He got lots of things done for the District of Columbia. Now, he's a pretty conservative guy, about as conservative as you're going to get. But there is a whole new bunch of people who essentially don't think you spend money on anything. That's why our roads and bridges and infrastructure is going to rot. And so you are seeing a very different kind of member, way more conservative than the most conservative people I worked with in the Congress since I've been there. As a result, they don't get much done. And the country is is beginning to notice it. Isn't it interesting that in the presidential contest, they control the House, they control the Senate. Why are people angry? Couldn't the Republicans do something about it? I think they're angry with them for overpromising. They're angry with them because they've done nothing about they've done nothing about their wages, and people's wages have been, in effect, going down, and certainly not rising for 30 years now. And so they are coming to a quite extraordinary conclusion. They don't want to have anything to do with people who've been elected. That's how you get Trump. Whoever thought that this would happen? Well, those actually, when you consider that Trump doesn't seem to be an ideological Republican, I don't even know where this leaves the people who've been in the Congress who've been the most conservative, because the base of the Republican Party is supporting Trump, even though Trump doesn't agree with them on things like look at transgender bathrooms, or you can go to any bathroom you feel comfortable with. You know, that's what Trump recently said. That's not very Republican. They don't know what to do with him, but their base is voting for him.
Well, you know, that actually makes me think about something else, because there is a miraculous political movement that seems to be underway in this country right now, and it's given to the rise of a Donald Trump, and on the left, a Bernie Sanders. You know, what is it that you feel like has happened that has created this climate where this can happen?
Well, I think they are both responding to the same thing. Bernie is more explicit about it. When he talks about Wall Street, he talks about declining incomes. He talks about inequality in the economic in throughout our economic system in a way that has never been before. Now, why is it that white men in particular have been for Trump? They think that he is going to help them get out of this problem where their wages do not automatically rise the way their father's wages and grandfather's wages and so forth. That is a global phenomenon. Someone ought to explain to them it's not just the United States, but the difference is we're making it worse with tax cuts to those who need no tax cuts, and giving them nothing. Because they fancy themselves Republicans, they don't even know what they want. The Democrats, who for Bernie Sanders, many of them young people, perfectly understandable. Suppose you went to college because they told you if you got a college education, that's all you needed. Then you got out of college and you're lucky to get a position as an unpaid intern. That's who his base really is, although not alone. That's not all it is. But that is who is driving his numbers up, along with many other dissatisfied Democrats who are reacting to the very same thing that the Republican, the white men, the white males are reacting to on their side. Only I think on our side, people are more conscious of what they're reacting to. On their side, they're just angry.
So what is your office doing to stay connected with the residents of the district?
Oh my heavens, that's the job of a member of Congress, is to stay connected. There's a whole district office that does nothing but stay in touch with the community. Perhaps the prime way I do it is something called Norton in Your Neighborhood, where we go into people's neighborhoods and just discuss everything about the Congress with them. I'm usually doing that once or twice a week. But there are many, many ways. I mean, I'm on social media all the time.
We see.
I've seen you on the Facebook and
the
Twitter.
Tweeting all the time. We tweeted that we were going to be on this program.
Awesome.
There was a hashtag.
Yeah.
Well, you're no stranger to television, and in some cases, you've gotten to do some fun stuff as far as making television appearances. For example, I've seen you on Stephen Colbert's show and various documentaries on Crossfire, and you have an IMDb page. Have there been any appearances or programs that you've made that stand out for you?
Well, first of all, I'm pleased you mentioned Colbert. I'm waiting for him to invite me on his evening show. He would have me on. I mean, I must have been on there, I don't know how many times, but he had me on there to make fun of me. It was terrific. That's how people knew that we did not have voting rights. He said, I'm having Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who has about as much power as the vice president of your student council. Then I'd have to explain what we have, you see. That gave me a magic opportunity. But there are many similar opportunities.
Okay. To the viewers, we ask you to stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break.
There are a couple.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just
Please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Welcome back to Dreams, the Capitol View. We are joined with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, and to her surprise, we're actually joined by two local Girl Scouts from Troop 1270, Krista Stargell and Christian Stargell. They actually have a presentation for the Congresswoman for all of her help and support for our local Girl Scout unit. Krista?
Hello, my name is Krista, and we would like to thank you for letting us march in the parade with you, the Cherry Blossom
For
Parade.
me? My heavens.
And we want to thank you for always supporting the Girl Scouts and marching with us in the parade.
Goodness, can I thank you for these beautiful flowers? Can I really have them?
Yes.
So tell us how long you've been Girl Scouts, and then tell the Congresswoman where the Girl Scouts, where your adventures took you last year.
Okay, we've been Girl Scouts for around maybe 8 years. We've done it almost all of our lives. And last year we visited Europe, parts in Europe. We went to Barcelona, Paris, and France. And Krista can tell you more about that.
Yeah, we went for 2 weeks, was it? Yeah, we went for 2 weeks, and we did a lot of stuff. We went on tours, and we went to a lot of restaurants and tried different food, and we had a great experience.
Well, are you sisters? Are you sisters?
Yes.
What schools do you all go to?
I go to Stuart Hobson Middle School. I'm currently an 8th grader.
And I attend School Without Walls Senior High School, and I'm currently a 10th grader.
Wow.
So we want to thank you for your support, Congresswoman, and all that you do for the Girl Scouts. A lot of people don't know that you are an active supporter of the Girl Scouts. Do you want to tell them, the viewers, a little bit about how you've helped the Girl Scouts?
Well, I don't think that I don't think that the Girl Scouts owe me. I owe the Girl Scouts. But I think that scouting is one of the best activities a young girl or a young boy could be involved in. I do not remember the Girl Scouts when I was a youngster. I'm sure they were around, but I do not remember Girl Scouts. I would love to have been in the Girl Scouts.
So what are some of the skills that you all have learned as Girl Scouts?
I'll start. The Girl Scout really, it shows you how to be a young lady. So they provided etiquette classes, and they just want to better you as a person and also as a Girl Scout. They show you leadership skills, they show you accounting, they just show you all things all around just to make you more advanced and just a better person.
I agree. The Girl Scouts take us to a lot of classes to learn etiquette, and we also learn a lot of leadership skills from Girl Scouts too.
What were some of your experiences with the Cherry Blossom Parade that the Congresswoman invited you all to participate? Because for 2 years you all have marched with her, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How was that experience?
It was really awesome. We had a chance to march in the parade and wave at everybody, and we had a really nice time marching with you.
I would say it was really fun, and yeah, it was just basically fun. We got to meet a lot of different people, so that was a great experience. We got to talk to dancers, people in bands, just a lot of people, and like she said, wave at a lot of people, so that was fun.
And we also got the experience to meet other Girl Scouts that were in the D.C. area.
Awesome. Congresswoman, what initiatives are you working on for the youth in our city?
Well, perhaps one of the most important ones is DC TAG, DC Tuition Access Grants. I was able to get this grant because this grant for DC residents because DC does not have a state university system where you have 30, 35, for example, in Maryland and Virginia, different state colleges and universities. We are very fortunate to have one, the University of the District of Columbia. But if they have 30 or 35 in the neighboring states, you can imagine we were losing residents when youngsters got to be about the ages of these two beautiful young ladies. And district itself was not at the time doing very well. So I came upon this idea that if you could go to any state-supported institution and live in the District of Columbia for low in-state, what they call in-state tuition, the same tuition you'd pay if you lived there, then perhaps I could keep residents in the District of Columbia. This is when the District of Columbia was at a low point in its own finances. And as a result, we have been able to keep people in the District of Columbia. If anything, our population is growing very rapidly. And it means that if either of these young ladies decides to go to any state-supported institution in the United States, they will go at low in-state tuition, and the federal government will pay the rest in order for because they are out of state. This one bill has doubled college attendance in the District of Columbia, and we have youngsters going to college in every state of the union.
I wasn't aware that we had you to thank for
That's
DC
my bill.
Tag.
Whose bill did you think that
was? Well, I didn't know, but my family has been a recipient of that.
Really?
And my son is going to school at Pitt now, and he's got DC Tag, and I'm like, thank you.
I love it. I love those stories, even when they didn't know that it was my bill.
Fantasize for us for a moment. If there was one piece of legislation that you could wave a magic wand and have passed, what would it be besides statehood?
Oh, that's not fair, Angel.
But that's automatic.
Well, no, it's not automatic. That is the bill I would. You can't say what one piece, and then I'm not going to let you say what one piece. It would be statehood for the District of Columbia. And then obviously then it would be budget autonomy, so that our budget would not have to come here, would not have to come to the Congress of the United States.
You had wanted to follow up, I think, on that question about the TV shows.
Oh, there's one coming up. Is it Netflix that's doing this? It's from a book called Good Girls Revolt. Good Girls Revolt is about, I was in New York at the time, and I represented women at Newsweek. These women were Phi Beta Kappas. These women were at the top of their careers, but they were all hired at Newsweek magazine and at magazines throughout the United States as researchers. Men from these same colleges, the best colleges and universities in the United States, were hired as reporters. So they came to me at the ACLU to represent them. And this Netflix is about how at 7 months pregnant with my first child, I represented them, and about how Kay Graham, who owned Newsweek, my meeting with her, a big belly, it's going to be fun. and a gorgeous young woman is representing me, and I'll forget her name for the moment.
I'm going to look that one up. I got to look that up on IMDb.
So we want to thank the local Girl Scouts for your presentation to the Congresswoman. And to the viewers, we say thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after another short break.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
You're
welcome.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please,
Don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Welcome back to Dreams, the Capitol View. We still have with us Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, and we've also been joined by Mr. Raynald A. Blackwell, who is the director for the DC Capitol Guard Youth Challenge Academy. Welcome, Mr. Blackwell.
And thank you. Welcome.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the DC Capitol Guard Youth Challenge Academy and how the Congresswoman has been supportive and very instrumental in helping getting that program funded and moving along.
Well, the Youth Challenge program is we'd like to say it's an opportunity for a second chance for youth that have been disengaged from high school. And the Congresswoman has been supportive of Youth Challenge program, since 2006 or 2007 when we had our own standalone program, and she's been working really hard to ensure that the district can get their own program. And now as a member also serving as a congressional caucus, which is a non-partisan caucus of representatives that support the 40 programs throughout the United States, which includes the Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia.
So the Congresswoman was greeted by some of the members of the challenge program.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we would like for you to officially present her with the plaque that was given to her upon her arrival.
What we decided to do in honoring her is with all her support, is what she does for the District of Columbia, the residents of the District of Columbia, and what it reads is for distinguished service and leadership as the voice of the residents of the District of Columbia, and her passion and genuine concern for the youth of our community in the District of Columbia Capitol Guardian Youth Challenge Academy as a member of the 114th Congressional Youth Challenge Caucus. We presented today, April 25th. Again, it goes for all her support and ensuring that funding for this program, our program, and all the programs throughout the nation is available.
Okay. Tell us about the mission and the vision of the program.
Well, the mission of the program is to intervene and reclaim the lives of at-risk youth, 16 to 18 years of age, traditionally considered high school dropouts, or we like to prefer to say is those students who disengage from high school, and returning them back to the community as productive tax-paying citizens, or, and what I like to say, as more discipline-focused students.
Okay. Congresswoman, what have been your thought about the kids that you've seen come through the program?
Well, a great deal of credit goes to the DC National Guard, with whom I worked on this program, who came to me with the notion of having our own program. We were part of the Maryland program. We didn't have our own, and we didn't have a place for our own. Now we have a place for our own. And having our own Challenge Academy alongside the Challenge Academy from other states helps funding. And if you could have seen the young men and women saluting and otherwise showing that they are acquiring all the discipline you might expect, I think you would have been as proud of them as I came into the studio as I was.
Awesome, awesome. What are the dates and what are the regulations for getting into the program?
Okay, the challenge program, we run 2 cycles a year, January through June, and that's the current cycle that we're in. These young people that met the Congresswoman today have been with us since January 11th, and they'll be graduating on June 11th at the University of District of Columbia. The next class will come in July, and that will run through December, so we do 2 cycles a year. Our requirements are 16 to 18 years of age at time of entry into the program. Gets into be there. They have to be volunteers. They can't be court order mandated to be there. We'll say some are voluntold. Generally works out, for those. And the key is they have to have the willingness to be there. Drug-free, to the point that we will drug test in the program. They have to be legal residents of the United States and residents of the District of Columbia. And we're looking at not on probation or parole for anything other than a juvenile status offense, and not convicted or charged of an offense that might be considered a felony if charged as an adult. So we look at all these different things, and we look at each case by case. One of the biggest things that we work with is must be physically and mentally capable to participate with reasonable accommodation. The physical part is pretty easy. But as I'm sure you're aware that there's an influx of mental health issues. We find a lot of the young people we deal with are suffering from trauma-induced behaviors. They have post-traumatic stress disorder. They're victims of abuse, both physically, mentally, sexually. And that's why they're not successful in the traditional school system. We deal with a lot of homeless youth, homeless by definition. But we look at all those things, each case, and we look for, when they say that what's the right cadet for or youth for the program, is that young person who wants to change the direction of their life.
Let's talk about the educational component of the program. I know that you all offer, at the completion of the program, there is a GED or a high school diploma.
Well, our program right now is a GED producing program. I would like to say challenge program. It's not a GED program. We are a non-cognitive to skill development program. But our track is GED preparation. So the students will be prepared to take the GED exam towards the end of the class, and they will now, fortunately, receive a district high school diploma.
Awesome. And so I know we were talking earlier about potentially some credits associated with the program. One of the,
what we're finding is, it becomes a barrier to enrollment, finding the 16 to 17-year-olds, because our current rule, compulsory education rule, dictates that 16 or 17s must be enrolled in an educational institution. If not, they'll be held truant. Parents could be fined up to $2,500 or 30 days in jail. Challenge program is not an educational institution, so we're currently working to either solicit put out an RFP to the local public charter schools to determine if they want to contract those services. But ideally, what we would like to do is partner with our local school district, the DC Public Schools, in which the students would just transfer. They will stay in the school system and transfer to the challenge program, and they will earn credits while they're there, or work towards a GED depending on their need.
How many students have successfully completed the program, Mr. Blackwell?
Over the history, the Youth Challenge was established in 1993, and there's approximately just under 150,000 young people have completed nationally. We'll point out that DC residents have been participating in Youth Challenge program since its inception. We've been sending our students to the Maryland program until we was able to open the program, our own standalone site, in 2007. But due to logistical reasons, that didn't work out, and we went back to partnership with Maryland, and now we have our own site, and we opened in 2013. So currently we have 215 that actually completed since we opened. I will say that we have capacity for 176 during the program, but we are falling short in finding the students to fill those beds.
So how are you reaching out to the community to get people involved?
Wow, we get referrals from, we work really closely now with the ACE Diversion program with the Carl Racine's office, the Attorney General. He's a big supporter of the Youth Challenge Academy. We, of course, get referrals from the Department of Human Services, Child and Family Services, a lot of community-based organizations. What's hurting us is the lack of referrals from the school system, because they've been told that they can't refer to us, and that's what we're working.
So out of curiosity, do you know why the school system can't make referrals?
Because of the compulsory educational ruling that it's been in place, but they really started to enforce it in January 2014, which is about 6 months after we opened. The history, we had counselors, attendance counselors referring to the program when we didn't have our own standalone program. I had counselors that would actually bring students to us. And I had administrators that serve as mentors. All our students have to have mentors. We're starting to try to build that relationship back, or to get, again, to the DCPS to look at this program as an alternative school, like several of our sister programs. There are programs that are running as public charter schools that's partnered with them, and they have some schools with the local school districts is actually just providing all that educational services.
Okay. Well, this was a segment just to say thank you to you again, Congresswoman, for all of your support that you're doing for our youth, especially in the Challenge program.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell, for joining us. And to the viewers, we ask you to stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break.
That is a got a little fingerprints on it now, but
We're leaving.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit. Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just, please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Welcome back to Dreams the Capitol View. We are still so glad to have the Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton with us on our show today. Congresswoman Norton, just before we went to the last segment, we were talking about your upcoming show, on your upcoming appearance on Netflix. So that's something we definitely have to watch out for. That should really be interesting.
I'm going to check out the IMDb page.
Yeah, to see. One of the hot topics that everybody has been discussing, and I'll leave this one for Ulysses, since it is a sports question.
Well, and I'm a huge fan, but this is the thing. I mean, African Americans have been the targets of racial slurs for hundreds of years, and you would think that would make us more sensitive. And yet, many of us in Washington still root for the local NFL franchise. Now, you co-sponsored legislation that was aimed at rescinding the NFL's tax-exempt status until such time as the owner of the local club could be compelled to change the team nickname. Is this important, and why?
Well, it is, and I think they've given up their tax-exempt status, so I'm glad that we raised it. The Washington football team is much beloved in this town for very good reason. I can't understand why Mr. Snyder would stick to a name which is a racial slur, particularly in the nation's capital, and particularly here where we have a large number of minority groups, where we have a very diverse population. But his stubbornness has meant that there are a number of us in the Congress who have tried different ways to, in fact, get him to change. The tax-exempt status was an example of that. But Native people themselves have sued and have gotten a positive opinion And what he's doing is to simply keep appealing it.
Yeah, the copyright protection, I know, has been
the patent
eliminated.
office is who gave them the first.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm a huge fan.
And so am I.
Yeah, you know, what troubles me with this is that there's so many fans here who won't acknowledge that this is a horrible, hateful, racist slur.
Well, I'm not sure that there are a lot of fans for the name. There are a lot of fans for the team,
right,
who don't give a lot of thought to the name.
You're very gracious. I know I'm going to get hate mail after this. Why did you talk about the Redskins today?
So I have a question before we wrap up. For you in particular, with the civil rights background, how has it been for you to work under President Obama's rule? How has it been under his leadership?
Well, it was, I think, for any African American, you don't have to be in Congress to have been thrilled to see what I don't think any of us could have foreseen. And that is the first African American president. He has done wonders for the District of Columbia. If he had his way, we would have voting rights. He's for statehood. He puts in his budget every year to give us budget autonomy, and if they followed his budget, we would have budget autonomy. So the president's done a lot for us. There are a lot of people who say, well, he should have done more. They don't understand that it really lies with the Congress, not the President of the United States. He just has to sign it.
Well, I think some people weren't especially realistic about the expectations going. I told people, he's not going to paint the White House black.
Right. So important to say.
Yeah. I hear he's going to remain in Washington after his term is over. Do you know
until his children
until his
graduate from school. They can be very disruptive to take kids out of school and thrust them into another. So I guess while he's here, I hope he'll be working with us for statehood.
In closing, how do you want people to remember you?
I don't even think about that kind of thing. Remember me because the election day is coming up. Vote for Norton. That's how I want to be remembered.
I don't know if you can say that.
Right. You asked me, I told you. Because I ain't going nowhere.
Well, I'm delighted that is the case. Because we love you. We don't want you to go anywhere.
So glad to hear that.
Yes, we do.
It looks like we have some more time here. You mentioned the fact that you were a full-time law professor, and I believe you still teach a seminar over at Georgetown. All right. What's your experience been like teaching law?
Well, as a matter of fact, I just came from teaching this seminar, and I appreciate that Georgetown has allowed me to teach a semester-long seminar all year long. That means I have to go only every other Monday, otherwise it would have been a semester. And I mean, to think like a lawyer is to think very analytically and very deeply. And I tell my colleagues I left my brain at Georgetown. I go to fetch it every other week. You have to think with a very disciplined mind to be a law professor. So I'm very pleased to continue to do that. It's one of the few things they let you do if you are a full-time member of Congress.
I know that there was one request from an actual issue that we've been working here right around the Brooklyn area metro between Brooklyn and DC, and that's trying to get some sound buffers for the residents along Puerto Rico Avenue. So we'll talk offline about that. But I wanted to say thank you from Dreams, the Capitol View, for spending your time with us to educate the viewers as well as us about all that you've done throughout your time in your seat. And so to the viewers, we ask you to remember Congresswoman Norton and to continue to watch Dreams, the Capitol View. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next time.